Hey guys, what's up? What's happening? Scotty Laughland here. In today's video, we're going to do a comparison between these two Scott Sparks. On my right, I've got one built with Shimano XTR, Shimano's top tier mountain bike group set. And on my left, I've got one built with Shimano Deore, their entry-level mountain bike group set launched earlier this year. We're going to do a comparison of these two bikes, weigh in the components, go out for a ride, and then we're going to talk about the differences and why you might pick one over the other. So let's get this started. To try and make this a fair test, the components on both the Sparks are almost identical. 120mm of travel both front and rear, 29-inch wheels, similar tires and cockpit setup. The main difference being the fact that on the Deore bike it's got a 4-piston caliper, whereas the XTR bike has a 2-piston caliper. Crank length the same, both 175mm, cassettes 10 to 51 tooth, 32 tooth chainring, and I think that's about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time to when I first got the Deore group set. We're going to compare the weights of it with the XTR and talk about some of the nitty-gritty details up in the office, and then we're going to get ready and go for a ride. Okay, so let's kick things off by talking about the chain set. So weighing in the crank arm of the Deore, 506.9 grams versus the XTR. We're obviously going to add in the chainring, and that's 343.1 grams. So we're talking over 150 gram weight difference already. Grabbing that XTR left-hand crank arm, 198.4 grams versus the Deore at 284.2 grams. So again, we're talking about an 80 gram weight difference. If I actually pick both of these up and I turn them around and show you them right there, you can see that on the Deore, you can actually see there's this machined out area right here, whereas on the XTR, there's nothing. The XTR features Hollow Tank 2 technology, which makes it lighter and stiffer. And inside the crank arm on both of them is hollow. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if many people know how they do it, but it's pretty awesome. And if it makes it lighter and stiffer, then I'm all for it. The differences are, on the Deore, you've got 170 or 175mm crank arm length, whereas with the XTR, they add in 165mm. On the chainring sizes, well, you go from a 30 to a 38 tooth on the XTR, whereas the Deore has only 30 and 32 tooth. But what's really cool is the cross compatibility, so you could use an XTR chainring on a Deore crankset, giving you that really wide range. So the cassettes, both of them have Hyperglide Plus, allowing you to shift continuously when you're pedaling. And then just looking at them, aesthetically, you can see that they're quite different. In fact, the full body of the Deore cassette is made from steel, where as the XTR cassette is made from 3 different materials. So let's get it weighing in. So we'll add these on first. The cassette on the Deore is 590.3 grams versus, including this little plastic thing that holds it all together, 377.1 grams. That's a pretty big difference if you ask me. The specification difference between the two cassettes really comes down to the fact that on the XTR you've got 2 different offerings. You've got 10 to 51 as you see here, and then you have a 10 to 45 tooth cassette. There's both the Deore and the XTR Max. You can actually see that looking at them, they're really quite similar, but there are some really subtle differences. Let's first of all put that Deore Mech on the scales and see what weighs in it. 320.3 grams versus 243.6. So you're talking again an 80 gram weight saving by going for that XTR. You can see that it's a bit more refined with the machining on the XTR, and this actually has a carbon cage just to really save any weight. And then just spinning the jockey wheels on the XTR, they are just a little bit smoother. But with the Deore, you've still got that clutch that Shimano are known for. If you turn it off, you can see you can pull it apart quite easy. Turning it on, a lot harder to pull apart. And the other really subtle difference is the fact that it has a bumper right here. It's just to really dampen the noise of the bike a bit more and make it more quiet. So there's the differences, and the only specification is that you can get the XTR in a shorter cage to go with that 10 to 45 tooth cassette. So let's push these to the side as well, and we get the shifters. All right, so let's grab these shifters in. This is the Deore, this is the XTR. And you can see aesthetically, just looking at it, the XTR is that little bit more refined compared to the Deore. So weighing them in, the Deore weighs 113.7, whereas the XTR weighs in 127.2. It's a little bit unfair because it has a cable, so it's not quite a fair comparison weight-wise here. And I know for a fact that is definitely going to be lighter. The differences between the two, well, it's a little bit easier to actually shift and actuate that XTR lever. And then on the lever itself, you can see that this thumb pad right here, that is rubber. So you can actually take that off, you can replace it, you can change it. It's also a softer grip compared to this one's just etched in on the plastic. So just giving you that little extra, which is what the XTR is all about. So putting them to the side, and we are going to move on to the last main component that we're going to talk about, and that's the brakes. So there we go, we've got the Deore versus the XTR brake set in. Both are 4-piston, keeping it fair. They're both rear brakes as well. Let's weigh them in. 283.1 for the XTR versus for the Deore. Let's see if we can just balance that right there. Perfect. 318.1. So you're talking about a 35-gram difference, I think, if I'm right. You can actually see by looking at the levers right here that there's quite a few differences. The Deore is missing the free stroke adjust. The free stroke just allows you to dial in that pad contact point. The other difference is that you've got a knob which allows you to adjust the actual reach of the lever tool-free, which is pretty neat. It's also just a little bit more refined. Both of them have that contact point right there to reduce any flex in the brake lever. And then if we look at the caliper, it's a little bit more refined again. And then it has those Ice Tech brake pads. Tech means that it's just going to cool down quicker, meaning you're going to get more consistent braking. The XTR brake comes in 2 different offerings. This is a trail brake. You've also got the 2-piston version, which is more focused towards XC, and it's lighter. Well, I think that we can put these to the side, and we've pretty much finished our complete comparison of the group set. I think it's time to get out of this office and go and hit the trails and see how they fare when you are out riding. So now you know the differences in weight and specs of the XTR and Deore components, let's head out to the trails. I'm going to kick things off by riding my Deore built Spark. Let's get out there. Super fun lap on the Deore built Spark. Now it's time to take out the XTR bike, and this thing is all singing and dancing. I mean, look at that cassette, 3 different materials in there to save as much weight as possible. Carbon cage, Holotech 2 technology in the crank arms, and carbon blades. Let's hit the trails again. Super fun morning out on the trails, riding first of all that Deore bike, then the XTR bike. They're both feeling really dialed. The plan now is to put them head to head. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to put the camera on a tripod, point it up one specific section of trail, lock it off, do a lap on the Deore bike, lap on the XTR bike, overlay the shots and see if there are any comparable differences. We'll then come back here and we'll have a chat about why you might pick one group set over the other. super fun ride up at Canvas Barn. I don't know about you, but I could barely see a difference between riding the two bikes. Both of them felt perfectly, performed really, really well. The main difference I can really talk about on the Deore bike is the fact that it is that bit heavier, which we talked about earlier in the video. But to save weight, that comes at a cost. Performance-wise, shifted perfectly, right through the gears, even under load. Derailleur didn't skip a beat, neither did the Cassette. Chain didn't drop at all, don't even have a chain guide on this bike. Brakes worked really well, they slowed me down exactly as I wanted them to. Offered great modulation, control. The only thing that I do miss about it is on the shifter. You can only shift one gear at a time, whereas on the XTR you can shift 2 gears at a time. And it's just great, if you're coming along a flat fire road section, you drop into descent, you want to grab a couple of gears, it's so good for that. But other than that, I can't fault it. So what I think we should do now is bring the XTR bike back in here and talk about why you might pick one group set over the other and about how you can even mix and match components. Spark with the XTR, spark with the Deore. It's a pretty hard video to sum up because I had as much fun riding the one with Deore as I did on the XTR. And going back to when I first started riding, I had a bike built with Deore and I absolutely loved it. In fact, it's some of my best riding memories, just being in the woods with the boys, digging jumps and berms and having a laugh. We didn't care about what equipment we had, but if you can afford it, the XTR is so nice. Fun little fact, if you didn't know already, the R in XTR stands for racing, top tier mountain bike group set, and it comes at a price. It's a lot more than the Deore. There's also SLX and XT. You can mix and match the components. And rather than going for that top level group set, what you could do, the money you've saved, you could reinvest in, say, coaching, shuttle days, or even traveling somewhere new. And these are all massively beneficiary in building your experience as a mountain biker. And that is what I'd probably recommend. Sure, if you have the money, go for it. XTR is awesome and you won't be disappointed. Deore and the other group sets are every bit as good. So I'm going to end the video there. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumb up, like, leave your comments, questions about group sets, brakes, drivetrain down below. Make sure that you've subscribed if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys out riding real soon for some more action.